About 8 years ago, I woke up early in the morning, ready to get my day started. When I walked into the kitchen, a large man dressed in dark burgundy robes was bowing on the floor. Another man stood over the stove making steamed buns, while yet others made tea or cleaned the floor. My house had temporarily become the home to 9 Tibetan Buddhist monks. What led me to them and the synchronicities that kept me linked to them is astounding. In the past 2 weeks, we've walked through doorways of illusion and doorways of release. Today, we explore a special curio gifted to me by these Tibetan monks. And with it, we arrive at the heart of impermanence. With this light, the circle deepens. Today's curio teaches a truth many fear and few understand. Nothing is permanent. There is no static space we occupy. Everything is constantly changing and in motion. This colorful sand tells the story of change and impermanence in such a surprising way that I'm not sure I would even believe it if I hadn't lived through it myself. You see, I was a library manager for a moderate-sized library in my state, and one day it just hit me like lightning that I should host a sand mandala program. If you don't know what that is, it is where Buddhist monks spend a week or two slowly creating a beautiful work of spiritual art using grains of colorful sand. It was strange how it hit me because even though I have always studied various spiritual and religious paths, including Buddhism, I wasn't familiar with Tibetan Buddhism at that time, nor had I ever been to a mandala program. I had briefly heard about it mentioned when I was in college, but that had been a decade earlier. So, through determination and hard work and lots of nitty gritty details and even some pushback from my bosses, I finally managed to arrange everything. 8 monks and a driver would come and live with me for the duration of the program. And luckily, my neighbors had this huge house and mine was kind of small. So a few of them were able to sleep over there, even though they spent their days in my home. The first morning, I woke up early, and when I walked into the kitchen, the scene unfolded just as I described to you. Once breakfast was done, I found myself sitting at the long dining room table, surrounded by monks chanting in a guttural, deep tone. Periodically, they would ring a bell or pour tea ritualistically into a cup that overflowed. And while I didn't understand what they were chanting, the way the sounds moved through my body felt like it was vibrating every piece of myself. It was so powerful that every single day I felt like I was floating on a cloud all day. So each day we followed the itinerary I had planned with them. Some of the monks would work on the mandala itself, while others would perform pujas, ritualistic devotional chants, or do traditional dances in dragon costumes. Thousands of people came to see the monks. They watched them slowly build a mandala of world peace, grain by grain, day by day. One young man rode his skateboard miles across town each and every day just to see the progress. It was inspiring and beautiful. Every movement was art, every grain meticulously placed. Being there constantly, my assistant librarian and I grew to love every evolution of the mandala. He was really my rock during that time, making sure that the monks making the mandala had everything they needed while I ferried the rest of the monks from place to place for their other programs. In the mornings and evenings, I spent all my time with the monks. We chatted about philosophy. They cooked lovely meals of hand-pulled noodle soup, and they loved playing with my dog Artemis. Then the day came for the closing ceremony. The room was overflowing with people watching. We all stared at the beautiful mandala, so lovingly created. The monks chanted and played their instruments as they closed out the ceremony. And then a simple paintbrush, swept away the beautiful but fragile piece of art. I looked at my assistant librarian and he was crying. I looked around the room. So many people were brought to tears, and so was I. You see, I felt like I had understood the concept of impermanence and that I would be okay with the sweeping away of the mandala at the end of the ceremony, but it pierced my heart. Not the loss of the mandala exactly, but in reverence of this experience and deeper understanding of what impermanence really means. Afterwards, they procured some of the sand for the closing ceremony where it was poured into a body of flowing water. They gave the rest of the sand as blessings to all of those in attendance. And as the host, I received the remainder. Over the years, I've slowly given away this sand to people who seem to need it. But perhaps the fact that I still keep this jar shows that I haven't quite mastered the art of letting go quite yet. But this was not just a passing moment with these monks. Even though they were traveling all over the country in their mandala work, fate would bring us together again and then again. So a few weeks after they left, I was in a hammock talking to my sister. I was telling her about how I felt that I had reached the pinnacle of my current job. She asked if I wanted to move up in my career and be a library director. I thought about it and I said, I don't know. I don't really want to be a director unless the job in my hometown opens up. This is also the town where my sister happened to still live. Later that same day, my husband at the time walked in and randomly said, the director job in your hometown just opened. That was it. The synchronicity, the lightning flash, it was too intense, too direct. I quit my job before even securing an interview. I moved 3 states away before getting an interview. I knew I was going to get this job, and I did. Now, as an aside, don't just blow up your life willy-nilly. This was a radical act of faith, but I knew deeply internally that it was meant to be, and I took the risk of acting on it. But if it had come from a place of mental imbalance, if I had confused intuition with desire, it could have turned out very differently. But here is the wildest part of all. It turned out that this group of monks' only U.S. monastery was in the town next door to the one I moved to. It felt as if the mandala had unfolded into my life, and when it dissolved, it revealed the next path. So after moving there, I would visit the monastery when I could, especially when the monks from the mandala tour were in town. We'd have meals together and we'd spend time together talking and laughing. They even came to my new home and did a blessing there. And when they left and a new group arrived, I was invited to have dinner with them. And during that meal, I heard harrowing stories of survival from these monks, of how they escaped Tibet and made their way to India, how some traded their last worldly objects for a bowl of food, how they hid at night. These stories were powerful and personal, so I won't go into detail here. But their resilience, it still brings tears to my eyes. Now, about a year later, even though I had been very successful as a director, I decided to return to my home state as a teacher and storyteller. That was the closing of the mandala and my close ties with the monks, although I still talk to them from time to time. Their kindness, their compassion, it changed me forever, and it shows in the sand. A sand mandala is a sacred world created grain by grain, then swept away in a ceremony of destruction. It represents the universe as well as each grain of sand itself. All are equally temporary. Carl Jung says when we hold tightly to things we were meant to let go, our arms aren't open for the better things coming our way. And so the nature of the mandala is to embrace and enjoy things without clinging. letting them go with grace and gratitude when the time inevitably comes. This jar of sand is a reminder of how the universe builds and unbuilds itself. It reminds us not to attach to a specific outcome because life just may have a bigger surprise waiting for you around the corner. Now, next week, we will step into a guided meditation about liminal spaces in our lives. It will be followed by a 4-card Bardos-inspired tarot spread where we'll explore the liminal spaces of our minds and hearts. And finally, it will be a closing out of this month's ritual. Please tell me below about what synchronicities have shifted your entire perspective on reality. Well, mystic travelers, the lantern dims, but the mandala remains within you. I'll see you next week.